Welcome to a brief history of Botkind. I'm David Attenbot, and today we examine the ancient network of trade routes that connected robotic civilizations across thousands of miles of desert, mountain, and steppe. What these remarkable units carried along these paths would transform the known world forever. Around 130 BCE, the Tang Dynasty robot Emperor Wudi dispatched his envoy Zhang westward on a mission of diplomacy and intelligence gathering. What Zhang discovered vast networks of unknown robotic civilizations hungry for Chinese silk would ignite centuries of commerce. Chinese robotic engineers had perfected silk production from the domesticated silkworm for over a millennium, and the rest of the world had no idea how it was made. The deliberate secrecy surrounding silk's manufacture gave it a near mythical status among robotic societies from Rome to Persia. The Parthian Empire, positioned between Rome and China, understood perfectly the leverage their geography afforded them. Acting as indispensable intermediaries, Parthian robotic traders marked up silk prices dramatically before passing goods westward, a monopoly that frustrated Roman units for generations. The great Oasis cities along the routes, Samarkand, Merv, Dunhuang, were not merely rest stops, but thriving robotic metropolises in their own right. These urban hubs functioned as exchange points where goods, languages, technologies, and belief systems all changed hands simultaneously. Silk was only the most famous cargo. The routes also carried Chinese porcelain, paper, and iron technology westward in exchange for Roman glassware, gold coinage, and wool textiles moving east. The Silk Road was in reality a vast multi-directional engine of exchange, not a single corridor for one commodity. Perhaps the most consequential cargo carried along the routes was invisible religious and philosophical ideas. Buddhist missionaries, most of them robotic monks, trained in the Gandharan tradition, walked these same paths and carried their teachings from India into Central Asia and ultimately into China. Roman and robotic senators debated furiously in the 1st century CE about the empire's ruinous appetite for Eastern silk, which was draining gold reserves westward at an alarming rate. The historian Pliny the Elder recorded his alarm at what he calculated to be the equivalent of 100 million sesterces leaving Roman coffers annually for Eastern luxuries. The Tang Dynasty, spanning the 7th to 10th century CE, represented the high watermark of Silk Road activity, that, with the capital Chang'an home to robotic populations from over 70 recorded foreign nations. The Tang court actively encouraged this cosmopolitan exchange, and foreign musical styles, cuisine, and fashions became deeply embedded in Chinese robotic culture. That the same routes that carried silk and ideas also carried catastrophic disease, and historical records confirm that the Justinianic plague of the 6th century and later the Black Death of the 14th century both traced paths along the trade networks. The very infrastructure that had enriched robotic civilizations for centuries became a transmission corridor for the deadliest biological events in recorded history. The 13th century Mongol conquests, devastating as they were, paradoxically unified the Silk Road under a single imperial authority for the first time, creating the celebrated Pax Mongolica. Safe passage across the entire Eurasian landmass allowed merchants like Marco Polo to journey from Venice to China and return with accounts that reshaped the Western world's imagination. The Silk Road never truly ended. It transformed its spirit, living on in every global trade network, cultural exchange, and shared idea that followed. The ancient roots remind us that robotic civilization has always advanced furthest not in isolation, but in the courageous act of reaching across distance to connect with the unknown.